Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Enlighten Up podcast. Today, I have a really special episode for you. I had the honor of being on my guest podcast recently, and I'm so excited that she was willing to come on here and share all of her incredible divine energy, feminine energy, and spiritual wisdom with you today. Her name is Waxela Sananda, and she is an embodiment coach, a galactic shaman, Ascension Mentor, and she is the best-selling author of the Love You Crave, a course in ascension, alchemy, and connection to the divine. She's a conscious channel activating the latent spiritual gifts and soul codes within her soul family. And Waxela guides clients to clear limiting beliefs, activate the multidimensional heart, and transform stagnant energy into dynamic, creative possibility. She is the host of the podcast, The Alchemy of Ascension. And I'm going to leave a link to our show that we did together so you can easily find her podcast and the episode we did together. But Waxela, so good to have you here.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm so happy to be here and get to share some more time with you. We had such a good time before, and I love jumping in. So thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. And you are a shaman and you call yourself a galactic shaman. So for anyone who in my audience may not know, what is a galactic shaman compared to a regular earth shaman here on the planet? How does that differ?
Oh yeah, great question. So for starters, there are a lot of similarities. A shaman tends to work with the dark and the light, and not avoiding the shadow, but really embracing that as part of this duality matrix that we live in. So it's not different in that way. It's different in that I don't necessarily work with plant medicines. There are a lot of plant medicine shaman. That's not what I do, but not to say I haven't experienced them myself, but I don't facilitate those for others. I am a galactic channel, and that is allowing the galactic energies to come through me and share. And then also when I work with clients or groups or classes, to allow those energies to come through and inform the group. And a lot of times that's frequency wise. Sometimes it's words and expressions, but a lot of times it's frequencies that come through. And I think, well, my understanding and what I would say, what I know is that a lot of star seeds, and there are a lot of us, allow galactic energies to come through them without even realizing it. So it's kind of a service that many of us do, and many people do it even when they don't realize it.
Yeah, it definitely can flow through unsuspecting to those who are maybe not aware. But have you ever experienced moments where it has been overwhelming for you? Like some, like certain energies that might be coming through, you're like, wow, this is really intense.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums up the first half of my life.
Okay. Okay.
So I started having experiences at a very young age, and I found them incredibly overwhelming and scary because I was a child. I had no idea, what are these beings and things showing up in my room? Why are they here? What do they want from me? They look weird. They freak me out. So I was always like sneaking into my parents' bedroom. I would even, when I was a kid, I would take a sleeping bag and lay it at the end of their bed, like just so I didn't have to be
Oh,
alone because I would get really freaked out. But it wasn't until I was an adult that I learned how to really work with those energies and to discern what is showing up. Is it a benevolent energy, or is it something that I need to have my boundaries up with? And once I learned how to do that, it got much, much, much easier and stopped being overwhelming. Although I will say that sometimes still there are energies that come in that are so intense, and I've been startled many times by energies that show up. And it's a lot about, for me, making boundaries with what shows up, because if they come in with all of their energy and all of their intensity and all of their, their brilliance, it can be lovely and beautiful, but it can also be terribly startling and even scary sometimes because it's such intense energy.
yeah. Yeah, it can it absolutely. And I think sometimes the other side forgets how I think they get excited as we do sometimes down here, like, "Oh, this is so cool." Like they know that you're able to receive and that you know what's going on, and so you're really, like you said, an open channel. And so it's like, "Oh, yes, we, have this amazing open channel that we can facilitate and use to bring in these other energies." And so it can get exciting, I think, especially just the times that we're in right now, coming through what feels like a very dark age kind of period of humanity and coming back to more of an awakened, more consciously evolved society. I think it's exciting for both sides of the veil.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I can also tie it to, if you ever do lucid dreaming,
Hmm.
at that point where you realize, oh, I'm lucid in my dream. There's this moment where quite often, or especially when I first started practicing, I would realize and I'd get so excited that I'd startle myself awake, or I'd be like so excited that I woke up and I'm like, oh shoot, I lost the dream. It's like that, where you have to kind of calm yourself and be able to work with what shows up and not get so like, oh wow, there's something here, which can take you out of it.
Yeah, you definitely need to surrender and just be very open to that in that receptivity principle. Like that's got to be completely active. So you help people really awaken through more of that ascension process, people who are interested in the path of ascension. You help them to awaken on a deeper level. For you, what was your deepest awakening period like?
Ooh, what comes to me first, my first thought in that is, which one? Because I've had, you
You
know,
and I were the same. Yeah, yeah.
there are layers. It's not
Hmm.
like there's one awakening experience and then you're done with awakening. Like I feel like I'm always awakening. I have had many, many profound experiences since early childhood, but I will say, the time that I was sort of coming, I would say the best way to kind of say it is coming back online with my past life memories, with my memories of who I was before I was this person. um, was when I was a foreign exchange student in Merida, Mexico, for the year after I graduated high school. I graduated at 17, so I was 17 years old, and went there, and I got to go to the Mayan ruins, Uxmal and Chichen Itza, Little Tomb, Tulum, all of those. And I remember taking a tour of some of the ruins, and as they were explaining what they used to do and how they used to do it, I was seeing in my mind, I was having memories of being there. I'm like, wait, no, that's not how we did it. Is how I would start to think of, like, oh no, it was like that. And I'd be like, wait a minute, what, why, why do I know that? Who's thinking this? Like, how do I have memories? And so that was like the more I was there and the more time I spent in those, and I got 9 months there, which was really beautiful. And the more, every time I went, I got this opening, and there was this feeling, this energetic feeling of like, I've been here. I know this place. I know this energy. And so that really awakened me to, oh, I've had other life experiences, not just this one. And there's more going on. And so that's, I would say, sort of my most profound opening of when I really consciously started to grasp myself
Mm.
as more than this life.
Okay. And when you were, I love that because it's interesting. The Mayans were what opened me up.
Mm.
They were my first connection of, I will say I always had a fascination with Egypt and the pyramids since I was like 10. And I remember thinking when we were like, studying geography, and I was like, oh, one day I'm going to go to Egypt. Like that's just, I have to go to Egypt, even though I didn't know why. I had no understanding spiritually why. But the Mayans were a civilization that I absolutely felt called to without understanding why. So when you were at the different ruins, was there a specific lifetime that you started to really recall, or some kind of specific activity, or um, I don't know, anything that was kind of going on that really you like, oh, that you remember like it was yesterday, almost like it's inside of you.
Yeah, I would say culturally, I remember the culture. And so something that happens, I think this probably happens for a lot of people, but something that I experience is when I tap into a like a collective, like the Mayan collective. I have memories of being many different characters in that, sort of in that play, if you want to say it like that. I remember being a Mayan princess. I remember being a, I don't know if you want to say just an average guy, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I remember aspects of being a mother, being, different people in the culture. So it's almost like not necessarily that I was personally each of those people, but I got the downloads of this culture. And
Mm.
I think that sometimes when we go to sacred sites, if we have programmed code there for ourself from somewhere else, or from, when we weren't there, or when we were there before and we knew we were coming back, some places hold codes.
Hmm.
And I downloaded those codes into myself. So it wasn't that I just remember being a specific person. I remember the collective. And so I could tap into being an average person or a royalty or this or that. And I think too, this is why people, so many people have recollection of being a very famous person in history, because that's not just an individual. There's a collective that goes with people that have huge energies. So we can actually tap into that collective. So thousands of people could remember being Cleopatra, or, any of these big characters that we remember from ancient times, because we have access to that encodement. We can download those experiences and those memories.
I think that's a great way of putting it so that other people can understand, because I can't tell you how many people I've met that have claimed to be Mary Magdalene in
Oh,
a past
yeah,
life, right?
huge
And
collective.
it's like, well,
Yeah.
how many people could be Mary Magdalene? But hearing you explain it that way, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, yeah. Even to go farther into that, like Sananda is a collective. I'm part of
Hmm.
this Sananda soul collective. So are many people, many, 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 many people. There's not just one Sananda. It's a collective of being. It's an energetic collective. So yeah, I'm from that lineage. So are you. So are many. We're from a lineage that is a collective. So many people can remember. That's Mary Magdalene. Of course, Jesus and all of the disciples, and the Mother Mary, and all of those beings that we know from history and from the Bible, part of a collective that we can tap into. And when you become conscious of that, it's really fun to play with. When you become conscious of that, there's no like, no, I'm that one, or like, that's me, not you. Like, how I met hundreds of people that either think they were Tesla or channel Tesla.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
Tesla's a big energy. It's a collective you can tap into. I have no problem with that. I channel Tesla too, and when we have these collectives, it's not, there's no ownership in it. I think it's really where I'm trying to go. It's like, yes, I'm part of that. And I'm part of this human collective too,
Hmm.
that we have. When you have access to this
Hmm.
encodement, to these downloads and codes, you can experience being anybody that has walked this earth now or will walk this earth. We have access to that. And it's really
Yeah.
fun to play with tapping into different beings that way.
Yeah, no, very true. And I think that's also really important for anyone who might be newer to the spiritual journey. For those who have been on the path of ascension or just the spiritual journey in general for a while, have already kind of gone through this particular phase. But I think there is this natural phase where as you start to awaken and you really become more aware and more drawn into wanting to just soak it all up and learn as much as you can, that you can there's so many pitfalls and traps along the way of the spiritual enlightenment. But one of them that even I was fell prey to is, if you feel like and sometimes you can come across a healer or a reader or someone who's like, oh, in a past life you were this, and then you take it on as full on truth. Like you said, especially if it's more of an important leader in the world who made a big impact on history throughout the human times, that you can take it on and it can become a little bit of a spiritual ego, where and that can be that, and that's again, I think it's a very natural pitfall that a lot of people fall into. And so having you explain this, I think, is really beneficial for a lot of people to understand that we are able to tap into other people's lives who have lived here because it is part of the collective. So we get the experience of having access to the wisdom that they received throughout their lifetime, the lessons that they went through, and then be able to grow from that and expand upon it in this particular lifetime. And then going back to your time in Mexico, you know, all of us are awakening um more and more, and but I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel that we've had civilizations that have been much more awake than where we currently are right now, but I think we're heading in a direction that is absolutely evolving and maybe at some point going to surpass that. Do you also feel like the land has, I don't want to say has been dumbed down because I don't think that's the case, but perhaps put in a more dormant mode energetically of what it's capable of, and that part of our interaction with the lands when we go to these sacred sites or just places that have had very deep spiritual activations, that we are part of also the awakening of the earth as the earth is part of our awakening?
I love that question and that inquiry. And so every place has multiple dimensions, right?
Hmm.
Dimensions. Some people don't like that word, layers, if you want to call it, energetic layers of being. And so when we approach a place, we'll say like the ruins, like Mayan or Egyptian ruins, when we approach it from a matter of a materialistic place. We'll just say third dimension, since that's the language, right? From a 3D perspective, we're going to see old rocks and stones and dirt and artifacts and things like that, right? But when we step in, and this does take some opening, when we step in, we open our hearts, we open our intentions, we raise our frequency, we do some spiritual work, set a set and setting for ourselves where we can step in a higher reality. We're going to step into that space or that container with a higher perspective. And then we're going to have access to more of what's available there. And so I wouldn't say that we are awakening it. It is what it is. I would say we are awakening ourselves. And then as we do that, we're able to step in a higher way and receive more information from the interaction. And that's not limited to sacred sites. That is with other people, with animals, with the earth, with the galactics, with the stars, you name it. That is kind of the, I don't know if you want to call it a secret. It's not really a secret, but what a lot of people don't realize, it's all about raising our own frequency so that we can interact in a higher way. Those higher levels are always available to us, those higher dimensions of reality and higher realms, but we aren't always available to them based on who we're being and what our frequency is and what our intention is. Maybe we don't have one. Maybe we're just there to sightsee. Then we're probably just going to see regular stuff. But you start to open up those levels of self, then you can receive more, interact more.
Yeah, yeah. And what I also love what you teach is you say that embodied ascension is in, not up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something I've talked about on this channel and on this podcast, is that I've kind of called it more like descension as opposed to ascension, because it's more of like your spiritual or even your higher self, so to speak, really kind of being embodied within you. So it's almost like it's descension, which is really, again, there is no linear kind of movement really when we go into these other kind of realms. But I love how you say it's in, not up. So can you explain that further for my audience?
Yeah. So a lot of people have this concept of ascension as like getting either out of body or taking your body to some higher place and leaving this world, right? Leaving the mundane world behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so when, and I call it embodied ascension or inscension, which is the same thing that you're talking about. We're bringing the greater aspects of self to conscious awareness within ourselves. And that takes doing the inner work to open the heart. I have a part of my training is an induction into the infinitely faceted, multidimensional heart, the portal of the heart. And that in itself is a construct that we can enter into and open up into, and all of reality, the universe is there, and so much more than just what we think of as this world is available through that portal, the interdimensional portal of the heart. Once that's activated, we're leveling up, we're connected to all of these things, but we do not have to go out of body. And I would even go farther to say we must get in our body in order to really be able to experience these things in this lifetime. And yes, when we leave this body behind, we will go back to other realms where we have access to more. But really the game that we're playing here when we have a body is how much can we appreciate this body? How much can we activate it? How much can we get it turned on and tune in and have multidimensional access through the body because of the body? And that's the ascension game that I play, and that I think many of us are onto. It's not about getting out. It's about getting in and activating and making it less dense here in this physical form, so that we do have access to those beings that show up, to those sacred sites and all of the activations that they have for us, and this higher dimensions and levels of experiencing life in this realm.
Yeah, the body is such a special vessel that we have as a human. And I think just as when we think about the human race, even from a galactic perspective, so I think it's sometimes we don't think about the human race from a galactic perspective, but we are part of the galactics. And I think that humans are, I think our technology is quite coveted in that our ability to feel a lot, to heighten our senses through our emotions, but through mastery of our emotions. And that when we do master those emotions, we are able to do more with this vessel, this skin suit. And so, have you received any kind of teachings or wisdom around the vessel, the embodiment, and what it's actually capable of as the perspective of a human from a galactic perspective?
Yeah, that is a big question. I have integrated a lot of that into my book and my 6 month course. But what, some of the very specific teachings I've received are, I was doing a tour in Mexico with Lucia Light years ago, and I was in my hotel room, and I had Archangel Michael come and show me. It was really cool. Like, showed me all of the things, like gave me a visual image of all of like my lotions, my shampoo, my soap, my all of my products that I use on my physical body, my makeup even, and showed me like you can actually program all of this with your intention. And you know how we always think of Archangel Michael with a sword? I call on him a lot to do cord cuttings and things like that in the shamanic work, cutting cords to past people, places, things that are you're holding blocks to. Well, in this experience, he said he handed me a sword. He's like, "You don't need me anymore. Here's your sword." And I look at it and I'm like, it looks like a USB, or like a what do you call that? A flash drive?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Okay.
a drive full of information. Like, it's not like a sword that you would cut something with. He's like, yeah, you just download things. That's what you do with this sword. And he's, you want to reprogram something or program something to do something, beyond what is normally capable of. You use this sword to program it. And he showed it to me in that form so I would understand how to use it. And I'm like, wow. So I start working with my products, and then, and you had mentioned something even about the Egyptians and their skin having this, I don't know, they use something on their skin to be more electric or
Well,
something
the
like that.
water, they understand one, like something about the hydration, like water is so important. I mean, we're on a water planet that is like a predominantly water planet, and our vessel is predominantly water, but that it's this keeping your body well hydrated allows for the senses on our skin to be in better, higher conductivity with the energy around us.
Yes. Yes. So you can program your products, your water,
Mm.
anything that you're consuming or putting on your body, your makeup, anything. You can program that to have that energy of, okay, when I use this, it will tune me in, and it'll have that interaction in a higher way. And I highly recommend using the most natural products that we can find. I mean, it's hard sometimes to find
Mhm.
those, but whenever possible, use the most natural things. If you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin or your body. Or if you wouldn't feel comfortable with the ingredients, because there's a lot of toxic stuff. But even so, you can take what you have and you can intentionally work with it to recode its energetic signature to do the thing that you want it to do.
Mhm, mhm. It's like, so sometimes what I'll do is, for instance, if I decide to have, say, a coffee, which I don't really drink too much of anymore, but if I decide I'm going to have one, I will first, like, even before I start making it or brewing it on the stove, I will just put my hands around it. I'll like connect, and I'll literally be like, okay, I would really like you to work with my body, and however way you're going to interact, it's going to be in a really harmonious way. And so let's shift the vibration so that the acidity drops, that, whatever it might be, and that there's a really loving vibration that moves through my body with this, say, coffee. And yeah, it's something like I do often, like just communing and also using my hands to program the food or the drink that I'm about to have, like very similar to what prayer is and why we pray. People pray before they eat their food and all of that. It's not just about having gratitude and giving thanks, but and respecting the food for where it came and being a source of nourishment, but also that we can actually heighten the vibration and we can program it to do specific things for our needs if we want to.
Yeah, I love that. I love so yeah, that's exactly it. And also just the whole idea and concept of being intentional with your environment, with the plants and animals that are around you, they are also channels of earth and galactic energies. And we can have this beautiful interaction with all of creation when we're conscious. And it's something I practice around my home. I'm fortunate to I live in Florida. I have a beautiful water in front of my home. Actually, it's kind of behind my home, but there's a big pond, and I go out there, and I just recently, I'm having so much fun with this. I decided I want to befriend there are crows around. I want to befriend the crows. And
Okay.
because I just think crows are cool and they're around, like, why not? Right. So I was sun gazing just recently, a couple weeks ago. I was out sun gazing in the morning, which I do. I'm just appreciating the sun coming up and receiving that sun on my body. It's a way to offer gratitude for the day and tune in bare feet on the grass. And I was just finishing with my sun gazing. I heard something behind me, and I turned around and looked, and on my roof was a crow watching me and looking right at me. And I'm like, well, hello. And so I went in. I have cats, so I went and got some cat food and some like table scraps, and just started feeding the crow. And it came down. It started eating the food. Now, well, I've kind of I need boundaries now with this crow, because I befriended the crow over the last few weeks, and now it comes and perches on my lanai and it wakes me up in the morning. It's like, hey, I'm ready for sun gazing and breakfast. And it gets me up like 2 or 3 times throughout the day. It will show up and if I'm available, I'll come out and feed it, interact with it. But I befriended it, right? And then in that, the
Hmm.
other birds are seeing that. And so they're starting to show up more around my home. I've got a beautiful great blue heron and these spoonbill, they're roseate spoonbills. They're pink, gorgeous birds. And like, wow, the birds are like starting to just congregate around my home. Yes, I feed them. That not all of the others. I feed the crow, but it's an energy that I've set up where
Hmm.
I'm a loving benefactor to my environment. And therefore, my environment is responding with life, sending more life to me. And so that it's really a foundational concept in this world, this matrix. What we put out is what we'll receive back. When I set out to befriend a crow, I wasn't really thinking about all of the multidimensional things that happen. I just wanted to interact with, I love birds and have a bird friend, and I know crows will kind of befriend people. So I started there, but now I'm seeing like the outreach that happens with my intentionality of being a friend to the bird collective. Now
Hmm.
they're everywhere. And I've also noticed on my walks, they're more present. I'm like, if I continue, I'm going to be like,
They're going to be perched
Snow
on you.
White. They're going to be like
Yeah.
bringing me stuff. And
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Floor, your neighbors. There's the bird lady.
and the cat lady.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, going back to the programming, you mentioned that you work with the Lucia Light system.
Yeah.
Can you share with my audience, one, what is the Lucia Light system? Because I'm a little bit aware of it, but for anyone who may not even know what it is, and who knows, maybe they're feeling a call in to work with it at some point. What drew you to the Lucia Light system, and what exactly is it?
Oh, fun. I had no idea we would go here. So the Lucia light is a hypnagogic light and what that means, hypnagogia is the state between awake and asleep. So that state where you're falling asleep, but you're still conscious, and your body goes into this very relaxed space. You get kind of dreamy, and this is really
It's a juicy
lovely.
space, yeah.
Yeah, really lovely, juicy space. The Lucia light is designed to put you in that space. And that's a state of we're very suggestible, or like open to suggestion. So then it's a white light, and it has a halogen light, and then it's surrounded by LED lights. And they go on and they go off, and they blink faster and slower. And as a person lies under it or sits in front of it, and as they're receiving the light and they dip into this hypnagogic state, amazing things can happen. Now, for some people, most people will see colors and patterns, maybe sacred geometries, and maybe they'll start to see, other things, like kind of like clairvoyance naturally will see other things. But when you're not even clairvoyant, you just start to go into that space and start to be able to see and experience things. And then the more you deepen into it, you actually open up access to portals, to experiences beyond the norm or beyond the material world. And so I've been a practitioner of Luciolite for, I guess, over 60 years now. I've
Mm-hmm.
done hundreds, if not thousands, of journeys for people, and it is a little bit like a plant medicine journey, because many people do have psychedelic experiences in the light, not always, so don't expect that, but it can happen where we have a breakthrough experience. But I've had people experience so many profound things, from even near-death experiences where they feel like they crossed over and experienced God and oneness and got this profound connection. I've had people experience deceased loved ones coming to them, and integrating, a grief or a loss of a loved one. I've had people's either beings or guides or deceased loved ones come and clear disease or discomfort, pain from their bodies. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of things have happened. And sometimes it's just very relaxing for people. Sometimes artists will come and they'll have a creative burst, like a creative awakening. If somebody has like writer's block, or a painter who just isn't inspired, they will come and experience Luciolite and get this burst of creativity. So all kinds of things. I have so many stories. It's different each time, and it's different for
Mm-hmm.
each person each time. So I can't
Just
say,
like
well,
plant
do this.
medicine would
Yeah,
be,
just like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yep.
how does the light work exactly? Like, what's the experience like for the person who's going to do a journey with the Lucia light?
Yeah, well, I mean, the basics are, you want to come fairly well rested. You don't want to come sleepy, because you might fall asleep and miss your session. I've had people do that before. You want to not have too much stimulant, like you don't want to drink a lot of coffee if you're going to have a light session, because then you won't be able to sink in very
Mm-hmm.
well. And aside from that, you just show up. I always have people state an intention. You want to bring your intention and think about what that is, because more often than not, you're going to receive the fulfillment of that intention, at least on some level. And so you come in, we talk a little bit about what's going to happen and what your intention is. I have a person lie down under the light, and then I turn it on, and I have 150 plus programs to choose from. So based on where that person's sensitivity to light is, I'll
Mm.
choose a program. Some are very gentle, some are very strong. I mean, sometimes people will come in and say, I want the strongest one you've got. I want a DMT type
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not the best one. It can just be
Mm-hmm.
like too much, like being slapped in the face with light. Sometimes a more gentle, medium level is more profound. And I found that I was like that in the beginning. I'm like, I want it all, give it all to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then over time, I now want very, very gentle light, because I don't need that much intensity.
Mm-hmm. And so, is it light that is stimulating the eyes, like behind, like, because the reason I'm asking is because there's an app that I use that uses the flashlight on the back of my phone, like the camera, just to, like, your eyes are closed, but you're in a dark room, and it's flashing different lights to create a state between meditation and semi psychedelic.
Mhm.
And I've literally opened a wormhole
Yeah.
with that, just an app on the phone. So is it similar in that way, or is the whole body immersed in the light? Like, how is it exactly experienced?
Yeah, that's great. And it is similar in that
Hmm.
it's mimicking the shamanic fire gazing. You know how in ancient times,
Okay.
and still,
Yes.
shaman
Mm.
will gaze into the fire, that flickering at night, and the flickering of the light will help induce a trance or trance-like state where you can access realms that are sometimes more difficult to access. And so, yes, your eyes are closed, you're lying under the light. It is what we think is happening. Now, we don't have we can't say this is definitely what's happening, but what it seems to be happening is the light is traveling through your eyelids, traveling through the optic nerve, bouncing around on the crystals in the pineal gland, activating that to some degree. And then you're having a psychedelic like experience from
Okay.
that interaction. That's what we think happens.
Okay. Fair enough. And for yourself, have you seen, like, does it open up the dimensions for you being in the room, guiding them? Do you see things? Because I've had another practitioner tell me, who uses the Lucia light, that oftentimes he will see, like what I've seen in my own psychedelic, where I'll see tribal markings on the body, on my hands, in different colors.
Mhm.
And he sees that on other people who are doing their Lucia light session. Have you seen anything of that nature, or maybe something different, but along the same lines?
Oh yeah, I've seen all kinds of stuff as a practitioner. And when I used to do festivals where I'd be doing the light like all day long for 2 or 3 days in a row, I'd be a practitioner, so I'm just sitting there watching people under the
Oh,
light. And so, it gives me a lot of opportunity to tap in. But I would get so many impressions for people that when I first started, after their session, I'd be like, well, I also received this and this and this and this for you. But then I started to write everything down and make it an option when someone comes for light, that I'll also do a writing for you while you're in the light, a psychic writing.
mm,
And I would get sometimes up to 5 pages of material for people, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, like when I would share back,
wow.
that's what I was seeing or experiencing, or that's what's going on in my life. And that was my intention, to understand more. And, so I found that what I was seeing and experiencing was also very aligned and relevant to their journey that they were having. I do that much less frequently now. So, I mean, I haven't even advertised that I do that for years. So, because it's really
Okay.
labor intensive on my part. But if somebody
Yeah,
wants that and they're local, I probably could. I probably
I
would
can
do it again.
imagine. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Oh, that's really cool. Well, kind of pivoting back to Ascension before we get into, actually, no, you know where I want to go next? Because I want to make sure that we get a couple things covered here. First, I would love to know what you were downloaded with when it comes to the Ascension breathwork sequence. Because I love breathwork. I think it's such a valuable, obviously, our breath is one of our most valuable tools in alchemy. And in order to open our hearts and awaken our minds, we can utilize our own breath to access parts of us that may seem inaccessible because we're kind of in our own way, but the breath really helps get us out of our own way in many ways. Could you please share your journey with how you came to being downloaded with this Ascension breathwork
Oh,
sequence?
yeah. It's actually a great story. I I practiced a lot of different types of breath work throughout my many many years of being a spiritual seeker and practitioner. So I was in somebody's breathwork class, and she was guiding the breath work, and I went into an altered state where I was shown that if you were to do this work, this with this breath, and then this one, and then this, and then, like the whole sequence of it, I was just shown. I was like downloaded in one moment. I was received. This is how you could do this. This will help people ascend. This will help people move beyond their traumas. This will help people clear out really fast, all of the things. And like, wow. And so I thought that download was for the practitioner. I thought it was for her. So after the class, it was a very small class, I went up to her and I said, hey, I received something for you. If you'd like to, hear about it. And and I started to kind of tell her, if you do it this way, it's going to like really be profound for people. And she's like, no, I'm doing it this way. She had no interest, zero. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. But I received that for a reason. So what am I going to do with it? I'm not a breathwork teacher. I'm a breathwork
Hmm.
practicer. But so when I went home and sat with it, I got very clear that no, this is for you to share. You put this together, you record it, you offer it. And so I started offering it to my clients. And it was profound. I partnered that with the 6-month embodied ascension course that I do, and they will do the breathwork sessions throughout the course. And it really opens up the space to, because we're in a container, they're working on their ascension and they're using the breath to remove blocks and to receive downloads and to really just expand, open up the frequency and raise the frequency of the body, along
Mm.
with, you know, all the psychic and mental work and emotional, all of the things that they're doing. So it's a beautiful partnership that works with ascension work. And it was just shown to me, you know, I can't say that I even did all of the work to, you know, like I just received it. And it was very, very clear. Here's how it's done, and here's the type of music to do it
Yeah,
to.
because from what I understand, you were in Mount Shasta, right? On Mount Shasta when you received all of the kind of the codes and the sequence of how it was supposed to be.
That, well, when I received that breath work, I was in, I think it was in Mexico, Playa del Carmen. When I originally received the, okay, here's the sequence.
Yeah.
Mount Shasta was a whole other
Okay,
whole
what
other
happened
opening.
there?
Yeah, a lot happened in Shasta. I've had a few trips there, but I wow, like even to go into that is a lot. To, like, where do I even start? I was on a 3-month journey. So actually I received that ascension breath work at the first segment. I was on a Luciolite trip. And so I was taking Luciolite from starting in Mexico and then across the United States, and then ending my US journey in Shasta with a retreat. I was facilitating a retreat with someone. I was actually there as a practitioner, and
Mm.
then going to Hawaii for a personal vacation with my family. And so in Shasta, it was crazy because the actual retreat that I was facilitating there, and it was right after a Dr. Joe Dispenza week long, I went to Shasta, and the facilitator had a crazy thing happen. And it was his retreat that he hired me to come and be a part of. He wasn't able to come. He was
What?
in New York. He was not able to come. He's like, I have to push it out a week. I'm so sorry. Something crazy happened. And he wasn't able to make it. He's like, can you come next week? I'm like, no, next week I'm in Hawaii, you know, so no. And what it opened up was, well, I immediately took my rental car back and got a something I could go up the mountain with. And I went and camped up at the top of Mount Shasta. And wow, like I got a week of deep, deep spiritual experiences. And things just really opened up for me. I kind of sunk into the mountain in a very powerful way. I was channeling Isis at that time. So I was working very closely with the goddess Isis, from the Egyptian goddess. And so she opened an incredible doorway for me to experience, I mean, so much beyond myself, like the world of galactics and really oneness, just so much oneness. It was just beautiful. And I spent a lot of time marinating in that. And then there was this experience of kind of like a rebirthing myself through Isis, with the facilitation of Isis. I write about this in my book. And this being showed up. I was lying in the vehicle in my rental vehicle in the back. I was listening to music on headphones, and this incredible heart awakening happened, and this being was present, and she called herself Christus, and she said, I am the Christed version of Isis, and also of you, of your higher self. And you know, just it was so beautiful. I mean, I after that experience, I thought, this is how religions get started. Like, my first thought was, oh, this needs to be a religion, because she's so beautiful and so profound, and Christus, the goddess, you know, it's like the complete essence of the divine feminine, you know, and golden light, and just open heart, and you could see and feel and taste and touch her, and it's just amazing, you know. So I really had this it was a complete ego dissolving experience where I experienced just this oneness, like such oneness with her, but with everything. And so that's what happened in Shasta. It took a while to get grounded from all of that. And it was Hawaii was the perfect place to go after that, and
Oh, yeah.
finish off that
Yeah.
trip.
I can
Hawaii.
see. Yeah, absolutely. So clearly the retreat was meant to get you there,
Yeah.
but the retreat
Yeah.
was never meant to really be your, yeah. And I love how that happens. Because we always have a plan, but where that plan is taking us, it could be somewhere else than we
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about, our authentic nature of being very true to who we are and how difficult it can be to embody our own authentic nature. I mean, so many of us don't even know what our own authentic nature is because we've, had so many programs that we've gone through growing up that say you need to be this way, you need to be that way, or this is what the world wants, this is what, your friends are going to want, or this is what you're going to want if you want to do this or that. And so there's a lot of different things pulling at our humanness to want to be received, to be accepted, to, be loved. But before we kind of hit the record button on the show, you were talking a little bit about authenticity and its importance to the journey. So do you want to share with my audience what you've been kind of tapping into and receiving around authentic nature?
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. This is so close to my heart because as a spiritual teacher, and I'm sure you can identify with this, there's this perception that somehow either my life is perfect or better than most, or there's an idea, right, that I need to show up a certain way. Also, just when you look at social media and everybody looks perfect and they're showing you the best parts of their lives and everybody looks like so immaculate and better than real life, we get this idea that, well, I might not be as good as because what I'm seeing is like, wow, wish I could be like that. Right. And then every once in a while, I'll see someone online who's just raw and authentic and real. And it's like a breath of fresh air. Like, thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that. What I really want to get to is we are all human. I mean, no matter how many amazing spiritual experiences we've had, I shared some of my profound experiences today. Those are my highlights. Those are my like really deep, profound, moving experiences that I'm so grateful for. It's not like every moment of my life is like that. It's not like I, always have my hair and makeup done and always feel like I'm in the abundance mindset. Or, like all of those things are practices. And so when someone new comes into my container, your container, and says, oh, wow, she seems to really have her act together. She seems to be like so far ahead of me or something, some version of that.
Mm-hmm.
I want
Mm-hmm.
you to know we all start at ground one and we all deal with ourselves every day. And, I have my highs and lows, and sometimes doing spiritual work, when we touch those super high highs, and when I spend some time in bliss, and I call it bliss and rapture, and really get to experience these profound levels of connectedness, the fallout of that, the coming back to the reality that I live in, and getting the bills paid and making food and chop the wood, carry the water, can feel really melancholy. There's this it's this balance that happens, that I'm not at a level where I'm just always in bliss, and I don't even think that's the point. I
Mm-hmm.
think we're here
Yeah.
to experience the whole range, and so I'm grateful even for those low points, because it is the balancing out. It's natural. And so I think the authenticity is, we are not the same day to day. I'm going to feel differently tomorrow. I'm going to probably look different. I'm going to say something different. So it's like this idea that anybody is better than you or has some special advantage spiritually. Anybody can do the things I've done, right? I've dedicated my life to my spiritual path. But anybody can have these experiences. The reason I've had them is because of my dedication. So if you have a desire to experience a deeper level of your spirituality, or to, have some of these profound experiences without plant medicine, with or without, but I did no plant medicine. Most of my experiences were without that, and I have done some, and they have been profound. But you have access to that. That's really it. It's not reserved for the people who are talking on interviews or teaching. It's for all of us, and it is for all of us now. Like, I feel like we don't need gurus anymore. We are our own gurus. It's time for us to look within and question everything. If there's something I shared today that somebody says, well, I like some of what she says, but not that thing. Great. Don't listen to that thing. That's not for you, and find your own inner truth. But don't let somebody else dictate what that is for you. And that's really I think the epitome of it. We're in a society where we're constantly looking outside of ourselves to get the information that we think we need, but it's all inside. And when we access that portal of information and we interact with the world from that space, we get exactly what we need.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, there's a couple things there. One, I think if you're looking for a profound experience, you're delaying it by looking for it. Because oftentimes the profound experiences come when we least expect it, when we're not trying to create it, because now you're trying to control it. And all of my profound experiences have come when I thought I was going in a completely different direction. I thought, no, that's not how it's going to be. But also, if you are trying to be a certain way that you think a spiritual person is meant to act, you are also getting in the way of your ability to experience profound experiences. And I get why people want to, because they're amazing. Like, I cannot sit here and say, like, yeah, no, they're the shit. Like, yeah, they're like, it's stuff you will remember, and they make for great stories, but it's stuff that you carry within you and it never leaves you. And it really does shape so much of your trajectory and some of the choices you end up making. But being your most authentic nature is not easy. It requires you to have a sense of personal autonomy and willingness to stand in your own darkness. And I say that because if you're not willing to stand in your own darkness, you're not willing to stand amongst the criticism that will undoubtedly come your way when you make waves for being your most authentic self, because you will make waves. Being your authentic self is a willingness to not be liked by others. Just because, hey, we're not made for everyone. Not everyone's going to resonate with us. And I know what it's like. I've been tried to be canceled twice from both sides of the aisle of polarities. And at the end of the day, it takes a lot of conviction in understanding who you are, knowing who you are in your heart, knowing what your intentions are, and understanding that in this world, those of us who are willing to step forward in a way that is scary because it's not necessarily observed as normal or reliable or even makes sense. When you step forward, you have to understand that the masses stand huddled together in a big group, which means if you've got a voice in a really big group that sounds like everyone else, most people aren't going to hear you. But if you're willing to stand outside the group where everyone can see you and your voice can now echo, outwards and be heard, You have to understand that you are now in a position where more people can see you, hear you. They may not like you, but you have planted seeds that might be taken by those who are moving in the direction of willing to break free of the mass indoctrination that is, well, it's everywhere. It's even in the spiritual community. It's in religion. It's everywhere. And so authenticity is one of the scariest journeys that we as a human can take, but it is also one of the most rewarding, because the more in alignment you are with your true self, the more you are able to experience that which you were created from, source, which is limitless potential. And that opens you up to so many profound experiences when you least expect it.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I love everything you just said. And it's ultimately the willingness to be present with what is. And if you're feeling like, if you're feeling negativity, if you're feeling bad, to just be present with that. And when somebody comes and when, yeah, there are lots of haters. I actually had a coach a few years back, and she said, if you are not if you're being public and you don't have some haters, you're not being authentic enough,
Yeah. Yeah.
because our authentic truth is often polarizing, and it's hard to even realize, like, it's hard to put it out there, but yet if you're not, then are you being authentic, or are you just being fluffy trying to please everyone? Because that's
Mhm.
not really being real. and
No.
and it's you sometimes have to have a thick skin, or just willingness to accept that, okay, I'm not for everyone, and people are going to have different opinions, and that's okay. that's
Yeah.
that's good. We're not all the
Yeah.
same.
No. And it's also very liberating when you finally, it's not about not caring. It's about not allowing other people's perception to change your trajectory of discovery, the choices you make, and your willingness to explore your path unencumbered, because your path is going to be very different from someone else's path. And yeah, your paths may intersect at some point and you might meet up, and then they might go in completely different directions. You may walk parallel paths with others. They may diverge. But at the end of the day, in this world, so many people are trying to be authentic. But then when the heat is turned up and you realize, ooh, I'm in the middle of a very steamy stew right now of emotions and perspectives and points of view. You just got to trust that whatever ingredients you're bringing to the process, um, are at least at the very minimum flavoring the vibe, and I say that because it's a very bland life to live inauthentically.
Mm.
It's a slow prison sentence, or I should, yeah, slow moving prison sentence. Where you're not really sure when it ends, and that really hinders your ability to open up to so much that is available to us on this journey.
Yeah. Yes. So I absolutely. And I would say also, as women, and myself, I'm from the Midwest. I was raised in a Lutheran family. The culture is to be pleasing, and
Mm,
to be pleasant, to be nice, got to be nice
hmm.
all the time, and nice isn't always authentic.
No.
Kindness is authentic, but nice isn't always authentic, because a lot of times, being nice in public, then that same person who's being nice in public is saying something negative behind closed doors. So yeah, everything you just said, I think also a piece of that is to look at how are you being when you get triggered, and there are all these posts and videos and comments, and I see some really scathing comments
Oh, I
sometimes. I'm like,
know.
wow, like who's writing this, or what, like what is in them that they feel the need to say something like they don't even know me, or the person that they're talking about. But to be responsible for what we're putting out there. And if someone says something online and it triggers you, okay, you're of course have your response,
For sure.
but don't necessarily crucify that person for having a different opinion. Like, look
Hmm.
inside yourself. Well, where you're feeling judgmental, or you're feeling judged, is usually what's going on. But where am I judging myself, and where am I judging others? So what you can always come back to and be like, okay, before I send that comment, am I being judgmental in a way that I don't want others to be with me? If we just had these like filters and steps in place, I think some of these like heated online scathing things wouldn't get so escalated and out of control and just turn to name calling and meanness.
Yeah, it's a whole nother layer to the human healing journey to bring in online debate. And I use the word debate very loosely. But the comment section, you don't realize how wounded so many people are in our world until you start posting stuff and start receiving comments in ways that are extremely unfounded in the response level. Like it's so heightened. It's like, well, I don't even know. I would never respond to anyone like this in real life, like when in person, and I don't know anyone that would respond to me that way in real life in person. But yet online, it's a whole nother animal. And
Mhm.
so what is it within us? I often, when I see a comment like that, it gives me pause to be like, wow, that person's really going through something to feel the need to express that much rage onto someone they don't even know, and it is something for us to be aware of. I will say I've also been given so much grace by
Mhm.
some of the commenters, and I've learned. I was like, wow, that was a beautiful and eloquent way to challenge what I'm saying. And it really opens my mind. And I really appreciate this because it taught me, it's like, this is a proper way to respond. Like it's a healthy way, I should say. And so, yeah, it's, I get to learn from the comments in a lot of different ways, but again, wouldn't be able to learn if I wasn't willing to open my mouth and say some things that I feel are very true and honest. And again, not everyone's gonna like it, but I think at the end of the day, most people resonate with authenticity. Uh, when you get beyond some of the triggers, people are looking for that. They're craving it because they so deeply in themselves want to be authentic. And so, one of the greatest things that any of us can do is just be authentic in our everyday life. Be open, be vulnerable, be honest, be willing to share your point of view, and learn how to express it in a way that is not taking away from anyone else, but just being true to who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. To all of that.
And just before we close up, in your own experience, have you come across where a particular instant where you were being very authentic and you did receive some kind of backlash? If so, how did you handle it? And how would you, like the advice that you would give someone who maybe is getting right, who wants to like maybe step onto a more public platform because they're feeling called to the work, but they're very scared of this very thing? How have you handled, or would you suggest?
Yeah. Um, it's much easier said than done, but don't take it personally.
Mm.
Because everybody does have an opinion. I mean, I get negative comments all the time. I get beautiful comments too. I will say, as a creator and a teacher, when I read comments or responses to emails that I send out, if I get one really negative comment or scathing email, it tends to stick. Like I remember that, where I might get 25 really beautiful things said and one negative, and for whatever reason, like I can't get that negative thing out of my head.
Oh, it's such our
So
nature, isn't it?
it's like, and sometimes there's not one way to handle it, because sometimes sometimes I do, especially if it's an email response where it's not public, then I know it's for me personally and it's not like to create drama. It's, well, sometimes it is, but I will oftentimes respond from, from my heart in the kindest way that I can, and just say, either sometimes if it warrants an explanation, I'll give one. Other times, if it's a response coming from meanness, I'll just ignore it. That's not, no need to engage, so there's not it's always a certain way. It's sometimes there's a way, a proper way to say, okay, I hear what you're saying, and here's my response to that. Other times it's just, if they're just being mean, then don't give them time and attention. It's
Yeah.
just going to suck you in, to a negative vortex. But if there really is an opening, and sometimes people are very open. I mean, I've sent a response email to people before and had a really beautiful response, like, oh, I never thought you'd respond back to me. Thank you for that. And now I see it differently. I've had that. And I've also had, no, you're crazy and I'm done. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep, gotten that too.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So,
Yeah, so just don't take it personally, would be my
yeah,
overall
you can't
advice.
you can't have attachment to the positive
Mhm.
if you don't want to have attachment to the negative. And so just appreciate the positive and the negative just for being insights. And some of those insights may be valuable and some of those insights may not be valuable to you. And you just let it go. And you got to trust that whatever you need to take on, you will. And whatever you don't need to take on, you're going to let it ride into the sunset behind you,
Yeah,
never to be seen
yeah.
again.
One more thing on that. If somebody, like, I get a lot of appearance comments, I think just because we're in front of people, I don't
Hmm.
know, but like, I don't like your hair color, or you're this or that. And sometimes I do like one time I got a comment, I don't like your face. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do anything about that. Like, was that necessary? Okay, whatever. But it's like, those you've just gotta not take personally.
Yeah.
Like, you do,
I
it's
mean,
just not, it's okay.
that's such a low value comment to make that can only come from someone in a very low value vibration. And so it's like, just can't even interact with that, like, I mean, I think, yeah, I don't think people realize, what kind of silliness can actually come out of people's mouths. It's so beyond me sometimes. I'm like, who raised you? Like, what's that? I just, like, so, like, I'm sorry, I am human, and I'm like, who raised you? But also there are times where, I've received emails, and I think because when you're on a public platform and you share so much, and I share as much as I can. There's some things I won't share because they're very important for me to stay protected, just energetically. And I just don't think it's anyone's business yet, but I share as much as I can. But sometimes you will get people who reach out to you and it's really none of their business, what they're inquiring about. And
Mhm.
um, they really don't have any business asking. And you've got to, in that, but knowing how to discern that and understand that comes from your own sense of personal autonomy, feeling better about yourself, doing your own work to acknowledge who you are, trusting your own heart, trusting your own intentions, and letting the rest fall where it falls. It's a process, but yeah, it's the internet. It's an interesting world. It's
It is.
just,
And it does take courage to stand up
yeah.
and be in front of people. And I have to say, it's such a good training, like, not to get, like you said, not to get attached, not to take it personally, and just to, like, can I stand in love and kindness in my responses, or
Yeah.
not respond at all.
Or sometimes not. Sometimes, the human part of me gets better. Like for me, if someone had said, I don't like your face, I'd be like, well, my face doesn't like you either. So we're matched. So we're good. Like,
Maybe I
So
remind him of an ex-girlfriend or someone that
yeah.
betrayed him, or, you never know. You
Yeah.
never know.
Oh man, some people. Well, it has been such a pleasure, Waxéla, having you on the podcast. Would you like to leave the audience with one final message, or
Yeah.
anything that you feel like you just feel into the ethers right now, and any kind of message that you feel you like to leave them with?
Yeah. Yeah. Just, I would love to say you're capable of everything that you think you are and so much more. And so if you're feeling a call to express yourself, to get out there in front of people, or to just do anything authentically, that's more of your authentic self, that's more of your personal truth, then do it. And don't hesitate, because now is really the time. The energy's moving fast. There's so much universal energy supporting us in being our authentic selves right now, that we have the whole universe, at our fingertips, essentially. And like, manifestation is so fast and life goes so fast. So don't hesitate. Get out there, do your thing, and have fun with it, and enjoy and be authentic.
Love that so much. And do you have any, let my audience know where they can find you, what you've got going on, and, your podcast and all the great stuff.
Oh, sure. Okay. So my website is my name, wa-shay-la.com. And I have the Alchemy of Ascension podcast. It's on all the places. I also have a YouTube channel, wa-shay-la Sananda, and I post all of my videos there from the podcast. And I do summit series now and then. I have a summit coming up in September. I also have a retreat. I do pyramid retreats with my biohacker friends. And we have one, our next one will be November in Mexico. So watch for that. And I think that pretty much sums it up. You can find me.
Oh, awesome. Well, I will leave all of those links for you guys in the show notes, so it's easy for you to find Waxela. And of course, check out her podcast. I was recently on there, so I'll leave a link to that episode for you as well. And be well. This is a very interesting time. Trust in yourself, walk your path and your path only, and know that those who are meant to walk alongside you will find you much easier as you step into your own truth. And that truth will radiate unencumbered and unencumbered. Let's just say that. And you will be found with much faster results. The people that you need to vibe with, your tribe, all of the support that you're looking for will show up the more you are willing to show up for yourself in all the ways you need. I love you guys so much. Have an incredible week, and I'll be back with you next time. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.